Something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, here we go, diving in. Another brand new hour. Glad to have you here for the conversation as we get into it. Live from Studio G, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Who do you want in your foxhole if the chips are down? That's right, live in all 50 states. Here we go. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, you'd better pay attention to washing your hands as hand, foot, and mouth disease is on the move. Yeah. Number two, the AWOL Democrats from Texas could be learning a very hard lesson because the Lone Star State will get new congressional districts. That's almost certain, and they could be facing serious charges and fines. They could even lose their seats. And number three, all right, this biggest, look, it is the biggest story of my lifetime. Coming into full relief more every day. We just talked to Hans von Spakovsky in the first hour. Colonel Rob Manus will join me here. He's going to touch on this a little bit later this morning. Why? Because it's really important. That's why. The whole grand conspiracy. Barack Obama, host of co-conspirators, led a charge to bring down President Donald Trump after he was elected the 45th president of these United States by co-opting a false story first created and paid for by Hillary Clinton and her campaign during the failed 2016 presidential election effort on her part. It was then turned into a years-long conspiracy to paint Trump as being in league with Russia and Vladimir Putin, but none of it was ever true. We know that because the evidence keeps coming out. We knew it then, but now we have piles of evidence. With Trump in office as the 47th president, his attorney general has done what I have been calling for ever since DNI Tulsi Gabbard announced she had found proof of a long conspiracy to undermine Trump and the U.S. government. Pondy has picked a federal prosecutor to present evidence of the crimes committed by Obama, Hillary, John Brennan, James Clapper, Andy McCabe, Susan Rice, Adam Schiff, and, well, you just scores of others. And let me tell you something. This is just the beginning. And for MSNBC and CNN both trying to claim yesterday there is no proof of any wrongdoing, it's just some kind of distraction. Let me go ahead and remind you of a few things, all right? Here is what the grand jury is going to hear in part. Listen.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
It wasn't. Irrefutable evidence. Of course, there's lots that she said that day, and it goes on and on. Irrefutable evidence. And my friend John Solomon, just last night in the war room with Steve Bannon, laid it out in detail. This is very serious. And Russiagate, Obamagate, very real. Listen to this.
I think a series of subpoenas starting to go out now, and subpoenas will start with federal agencies, intelligence agencies, and the FBI won't need a subpoena. They can turn it over. But other agencies like the National Security Agency, the CIA, the Director of National Intelligence, any whistleblowers who've come forward that might have possession of private information, all of that is likely to be the next round. You'll see a blizzard of subpoenas to start the gathering process of the evidence, and then once the physical evidence is in, you'll start to see people be asked to appear before the grand jury. If they won't do so willingly, they'll also be subpoenaed. So it's not unlike what you see in Congress, except that it happens in the secrecy of a grand jury in a federal courthouse. The big mystery to me, and I haven't been able to get it confirmed yet, is where is this grand jury going to be impaneled? Will it be in Florida? We just had a Miami U.S. attorney finally confirmed. People are very high on him. Does it go to Florida? Does it start in D.C. and transfer later? We don't know that level of information yet, but we're working on it.
Nobody doing better work covering this right now than Solomon and Bannon. I'm telling you, we We do fine work here, but don't kid yourself. John Solomon is one of the few investigative journalists still alive in the wild that cares about journalistic integrity. He's the best in the business. Believe me, he is the best in the business. All right, so on MSNBC, of course, a completely different narrative. The most predictable claim from David French saying Trump deserved to be investigated, but Obama and company, well, they're being unfairly targeted. It's just not right. Of course, listen.
I don't think any fair-minded observer could look at the Trump indictments and think these were specious, that there was no cause to bring these indictments. There was abundant cause to bring these indictments. And in fact, a person would be indicted who is not a former president 100 times out of 100 for very similar conduct. And in fact, many people have been indicted for similar kinds of conduct in the past. So what this is really is an effort to sort of create a law-free zone for sitting politicians, or at least sitting politicians that are MAGA sympathetic, or Donald Trump himself, of course.
Please.
And so, again, we are seeing the phenomenon of the Trump administration engaging in the exact kind of weaponization of the justice system that they've been accusing the other side of for years.
Yeah, MSNBC is the news version of a manure spreader. Old-fashioned one, the one's kind of sloppy, just throwing cow crap all over the place. Grew up in the country, you know what a manure spreader is. Well, that's what that is right there. It's also a bit of a blivet. That's 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound sack. We're a little more colorful when we're not on a family program, but that's what that is. So Attorney General Pam Bondi directed her staff Monday to act on the criminal referral from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. All right, follow through on this. And said it's time to open a grand jury investigation. Bondi personally ordered an unnamed federal prosecutor, and I don't know that we'll ever know this person's name, not for a while. At some point, we probably will. To initiate legal proceedings, and the prosecutor is expected to present department evidence to a grand jury, which would allow the department to secure indictments. Indictments. As you heard Hans say earlier on the program, if you were with us, he said you could see indictments before the end of the year. And now you might think, well, gosh, why can't they be this week? It takes a little bit of time. Look, how long have we been sitting here asking for somebody, anybody, to be held accountable? How long? So, a little bit longer won't hurt. The good news is Pam Bondi is moving forward with a grand jury. It is a remarkable development, and one that I applaud strongly. One that I applaud strongly. All right? If you're tired of being in pain every day, try ExodusNow.com. Exodus, a natural holistic supplement combining 2,000 years of ancient wisdom with modern science, featuring 7 biblical ingredients: frankincense, myrrh, cumin, all paired with the groundbreaking benefits of molecular hydrogen. You've heard about that, designed to soothe joint and muscle discomfort, boost your energy, and reduce inflammation. If you're living with chronic inflammation, you're not alone, but you don't have to suffer anymore. Trust me, I take this every day. Try ExodusNow.com. Try ExodusNow.com. And now that I've got the magic ring, it'll tell me my heart rate, my sleep patterns, my blood pressure, all of that. What if it tells me if I've had too much to drink? Try ExodusNow.com. That's the other way to go. We'll be right back.